In the story, Sam joined Hunter's wolf pack for his family's glory, but his sexual orientation became his biggest. Amidst the betrayal of Hunter and the family's chaos, Sam's emotions were greatly tested. When he finally gathered the courage to come out to his family, he was met with indifference and expulsion. Where will Sam go? Can he find happiness in a new environment? Chapter 75. Hunter. Jacob's voice was soft as he tapped his mate's cheek. Hunter remained unresponsive, fresh blood seeping from his nose. Jacob's protective instincts surged, his newfound confidence fueling his actions. With gentle determination, Jacob slipped his arms around Hunter's unconscious form. Despite Hunter's weight, Jacob lifted him carefully, cradling him against his chest. He moved slowly, mindful of Hunter's vulnerable state, and placed him softly on the bed. Jacob's fingers trembled slightly as he pulled the duvet over Hunter's body, then tenderly brushed through his mate's hair. Downstairs, the pack members and other werewolves remained transfixed, their eyes locked on the fallen wolves sprawled across the grass outside. Jacob's display of power had left an indelible mark on their psyches. The image of electricity flowing from his hand seared into their memories. The destruction he had wrought with such a simple gesture was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. But Jacob's thoughts were far from the carnage he had caused. In his mind, those wolves had earned their fate. He was done being a doormat, tired of others exploiting his former lack of confidence. This day marked the beginning of a new chapter in his life, one where he held the pen and wrote his own story, no longer allowing others to dictate his path. As midnight approached, 𝐿𝐷𝐼 busied himself with damage control and future plans. He had instructed his pack to contact the families of the non-believers and remove the bodies. Jacob's wrath had claimed 23 wolves, while others suffered heart attacks or were rendered unconscious by the force of their falls. Secretly, 𝐿𝐷𝐼 wished all the intruders had perished, but he knew the survivors would spread tales of their god's immense power. They would warn others never to underestimate Jacob again, and the story of how fiercely he protected his mate would ensure Hunter's safety under Jacket's watchful eye. With determination in his eyes, 𝐿𝐷𝐼 began arranging a city meeting for the following morning. His mind was set on tracking down those troublesome Omega wolves, eager to let Jacob deal with them as he saw fit. I don't think we have to worry about the werewolf hunters anymore. Margot's angelic voice floated through Anthony's ears as she took down her long hair, getting ready for bed. Her husband walked over and wrapped his arms around her waist. I'm a bit wary of them. Although they are like insects I don't think they know what to do now that their leaders are in prison. He leaned down and kissed her forehead. We'll get the windows fixed tomorrow. I promise. I know what you're like with your promises. She chuckled. But I'm not even mad. He could have torn the house down and did still have a smile on my face. Watching him stand up for himself, I felt so proud. Me too. I'm so happy he did that. But remind me to never get on his bad side. Margot laughed and buried her head into his chest. I bet Hunter will test it occasionally. Grinning, she moved the soft fabric of his shirt in between her fingers. Little arguments have been good for them. It has set their boundaries and they know what anchors each other, so they know what to avoid. I agree. 𝐿𝐷𝐼 ran his fingers through his wife's hair. But today has been one of the most stressful days I have gone through in a while. We both need a good night's sleep. Margot looked around the bare room. I'm not coming to the city meeting with you tomorrow. I'm going to stay and look after Hunter. He has not woken up since watching Jacob obliterate the werewolves. 𝐿𝐷𝐼 pulled away and climbed into bed. That's fine. I don't think I should ask Jacob to come. He'll want to be with Hunter when he wakes up. And Hunter will want him too. Margot switched off the light, leaving the dim yellow glow of the bed. After climbing into bed, she snuggled up next to her mate and yawned. Night, my love. See you in the morning. 𝐿𝐷𝐼 switched off the lamp and hugged her tightly. Night. His eyes are twitching, Sam said and leaned over his alpha. It was 10:30 in the morning. Hunter was starting to wake up. Give him some space. Margot smiled, making the beta wolf sit back. Jacob watched his eyebrows curl into a frown. He was in a lot of pain. even though his injuries had started to heal during the night. When a low whimper left his lips, Argo reached for the painkillers. Hunter felt stiff and sore. His head and face stung but also ached to the beat of his heart. He couldn't really move his left arm because it was in a sling, allowing his shoulder to heal. Breathing was utter agony and it really felt like torture. His throat was so dry and he was hungry. Without opening his eyes, he had one thing to say about this. He whispered. I'm going to kill the 𝐊𝐤𝐧𝐠. Sam sat forwards again. Just when his alpha flickered open his eyes. Count me in. His eyes were a little bloodshot and his vision was blurry. Sam, he breathed. I'm kinda glad you're still alive. The beta wolf shook his head with an amused smile. That's good enough for me. Hunter's eyes moved to Jacob, who didn't want to smother him with his presence. Yet he was trying hard to hold it back. With his right hand, he blindly reached for him. Jacob took it, squeezing the warmth into it. I saw what you did, the wolf croaked. To those people out there, it was amazing. You looked so powerful. They were going to kill you. I would never let that happen. Jacob's voice was so pure and soft for Hunter's chaotic body to listen to. You saved my life twice in one day. I hope it's not a habit. He attempted to chuckle, however. His ribs wouldn't allow much movement. I hurt so much. Here, Margot showed him 2 white pills. You need to take these. They'll help with the pain. Sam and Jacob helped him to sit up and they both clenched their jaws when he winced. Where's Dad? He questioned after swallowing water, hydrating his desert of a mouth. He asked before Margot could speak. William entered the room, rubbing his eyes and yawning. Clearly he had only just woken up. Seeing him triggered a memory within Hunter and his eyes fell on Sam. He remembered the secret he shared, just before Jacob saved them. Of course, he would never say it in front of everyone. It was something that they needed to talk privately about. You're all in my territory. I'm too tired to be annoyed. But I'm annoyed. Jacob frowned, deciding if that made sense. You'll have to put up with it for a while because I'm not leaving. Sam grinned and fell back against the bed. Hunter really wanted to thank him for being loyal and wasting his life so he wouldn't die alone. It was a very selfless act and one that he will never stop being grateful for. Although, he wasn't ready to pour out his emotions just yet. Turning his attention back to Jacob, he was surprised to see him staring deep into his eyes. The chocolate brown color was incredibly soothing. Is the mission done? Jacob nodded. I know your Omega wolves are still out there, but your dad will catch them. They're not a threat anymore. Neither are the werewolf hunters. I like how you just know everything. Sam chuckled. Jacob smiled and glanced at William. Me too. Jacob. Hunter croaked. My lips are missing your lips. His mate blushed but lightly smiled. Jacob wasn't so embarrassed anymore. Nobody bothered to make a fuss. He leaned down and connected his warm mouth with Hunter's cold one. Sparks shot through their chests and the rush of affection made its usual course around their hearts. Hunter loved it when he kissed him first. His left eye was pulsing and stinging. It was deep purple with splotches of green. The swelling had gone down a little but it was irritating his vision. Jacob lifted his head and smiled sweetly. I'm glad you're gonna be okay. There was a comforting expression, resting on the surface. Hunter could see that there were many things for them to talk about. A lot of it was how he was feeling after being betrayed so badly. The alpha was trying to hide it, but he was mentally wounded and still rather shocked. He didn't see it coming. They were supposed to watch his back for the rest of their lives. Yet they turned on him so easily. He trusted them and that was what disturbed him the most. I'm going to call your grandparents. Margot stood up and stretched. I'm surprised they haven't called already. Hunter, it'll make you some toast. He watched her leave. Seeing the sadness in her eyes was killing him. She felt sorry for him and he hated it. You're gonna be bed bound today, I think. Sam sighed. Can we watch a horror film? I hate those. William chuckled and sat on the end of the bed. What? Sam had finally found something that they could disagree on. But they're so good. Do you get scared easily? Yeah. William laughed. I won't even watch the film. It'll just hide behind a cushion the entire time. Well, if you'll be staring at some fabric the entire time, let's watch it. No, Hunter sighed. I can barely breathe. I don't want to be jumping at a film. True, Sam hummed. What about no? But no, you don't know what I'm about to say. No, Hunter smirked, trying to distract his mind from the wave of heartache that suddenly hit his chest. Sam was the only member of his pack that he could trust. Yes, 𝐶AC was not there when they planned to kill him and Jacob saved his life. Therefore he must have gratitude. But he could no longer put his trust out into the open. 𝐶AC would not rejoin his pack. It was too much of a risk. How can he pick another pack with the constant concern that they might turn on him again? He didn't even want to think about water. It made him feel dizzy and heavy on his chest like he couldn't breathe. I think I need to sleep more, he mumbled, also feeling a little dozy. The doctor said the pills would make you drowsy. Jacob watched his eyes glaze over with a distant stare. They were unmistakably taking an effect on him. You should definitely go back to sleep if you can. Hunter's eyelids started to feel heavy, almost like someone was lightly tugging on his eyelashes. Will you be here when I wake up? He mumbled and wrapped his fingers around Jacob's wrist for comfort. Of course. Jacob rested his hand over his, tenderly stroking his thumb against his knuckles. Sam and William slowly stood and started backing out of the room. Will, the beta wolf whispered. I'm going to the gym. Wanna come? You're not going to the gym, he whispered back. You have a head injury. You'll be fine. No, just relax. You went through a lot yesterday. Sam's heart nearly exploded. Was William caring about him? I guess you're right. He sighed as they reached the door. I should probably tell my parents about what happened. He has also been thinking about telling them that he's gay, but it felt like too big of a hurdle to climb over. And if he called them, it might just blurt out and he wanted to do it face to face. Yet he was terrified and it should not be that way. He likes guys, not girls. What is so terrifying about that? Will they be worried? No, they know it'll be with Hunter. William nodded while they continued down the corridor. This pack business seems pretty intense. You have no idea. I could tell Hunter is beyond hurt and angry about what they did to him. I won't be surprised if it takes him months to find another pack. It means that much. Sam stopped and tilted his head. Okay, I have to educate you. Grabbing his elbow, he started pulling him down the corridor. William quite happily followed. He was still in awe that he was talking to a werewolf. In fact, he was still in awe of being related to a werewolf god. So, were you born as a werewolf? He questioned before they turned the corner and out of sight from Scott, who was heading downstairs, wanting to help Margot with the house. Meanwhile, Jacob's mind drifted to Alicia's spirit, who used it to warn him. Would he ever find out? Would it come back to him in the future and tell him? It was constantly in his thoughts. He had to find out. But how? Hunter stirred and his attention moved back to him. He could not wait until he was feeling better. Still, he feared that he would make careless mistakes by going after the 𝐊𝐬𝐬𝐷 when his feelings were ruling his heart. The word was quickly spreading about what Jacob had done to the wolves who challenged him. The god rapidly became heavily respected. People understood why he got so angry. They would too if their mate was in danger. The word had spread far enough to reach Ricky, Harrison, and Jonah. Naturally, immense fear had ruptured through them. They knew their alpha very well, and they grasped the fact that he would do anything to find them. He will be raging and their lives are incredibly vulnerable, now that they are on Hunter Ray's son's hit list. Chapter 76. If anyone has any information about the whereabouts of the Omega Wolves and fails to speak up right now, I will bring 𝐿𝐤𝐽𝐻 here to deal with you. Anthony stood in front of the huge crowd of werewolves. The city meeting started 15 minutes ago. He spent the time explaining what has happened to his son. Most of the werewolves were utterly disgusted and appalled by what Ricky, Jonah, and Harrison did to Hunter. Yet some were not surprised. He is a very special werewolf and being mated to a god. People can get jealous. A hushed murmur made its way around the hall as 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐻 glared at their faces, showing his anger. He waited until it fell silent again and found himself being disappointed. Not one single person knows where they went. Crossing his arms, he grasped the fact that they were keeping something from him. Raise your hands if you knew there was a group of non-believers plotting to kill the god. Slowly, not even a quarter of the wolves raised their hands. 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐻 glanced at his beta wolf and they both understood that at least one person had more information. Jacob, can you come to the city meeting? Please. I need your help. He knew he could connect a mind link with him now because they know each other well enough. The bond recognized his family, who was also werewolves. It took a matter of seconds for Jacob to be effortlessly standing next to Hunter's father. Luckily, he has had a shower and was dressed. Also, his landing was very smooth and he didn't make a sound. The crowd gasped and blinked back their confusion. Of course, being in the presence of 𝐊𝐷𝐾𝐜 and only one thing. Everyone suddenly dropped to their knees and bowed out of respect. 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐻 turned, giving him an encouraging smile. Are you able to detect the liars? Nobody is telling me anything about the 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐻. Still feeling angry about the situation, Jacob gladly looked around, spotting the weak minds and the nervous eyes. He could read people very well and a few members of the crowd stood out to him. Pointing at them would be awkward, so he stepped down off the stage and started weaving his way through. He stopped next to a woman with trembling hands. Her blonde hair fell over her eyes, however. He could feel her nerves. What do you know? Jacob's voice made her flinch. He didn't want them to be scared of him. It was the reputation he was building for himself. Key, please. I didn't mean to see anything, she cried, breaking her calm expression. Stand up. 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐻 boomed. Tell everyone what you saw. She climbed to her feet and Jacob stood back, giving her space. Yesterday, I saw Harrison and his family pack up and leave. They looked stressed about something, but I didn't think to ask where they were going. I saw you searching his home shortly after. I should have said something. Did you see what direction they went in? Yes, they went east towards the city center. Thank you. 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐻 looked around once more. Is there anyone else, 𝐾𝐞𝐜? The god's wise eyes glanced around, finding a man who was staring at him with too much confidence. Being a little wary, he walked over. What? The man suddenly jumped to his feet and flung his hands around his neck. Jacob instantly tensed as everyone around them scrambled back. 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐻 gasped and jumped down from the stage. The man was threatening to squeeze the air from Jacob's lungs. His heart was pumping phenomenally fast. You killed my sister yesterday. You monster. He roared. She was going to kill my mate. Jacob frowned and allowed the electricity to circle his hands, causing the people around him to stare with wonder and fear. But what? Jacob was angry. I will do anything to protect him. Even killing. She didn't deserve to die. Neither does Hunter. Don't give what you can't take. Jacob pulled back and 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐻 relaxed. I'm sorry that she lost her life, but don't think, not even for 1 second, that I will stand by and watch you hurt the people I love. Saying those words made them understand that he has feelings too. Just because he is a god doesn't mean that his emotions have changed. What do you know? 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐻 questioned and climbed back onto the stage. The man sighed and the script into his eyes. The Omega Wolves have traveled to the next city, trying to convince the leader of that community to let them live there. 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐻 turned to his pack. He knew Annette. She ran the city which stood east to his. Ray, get in touch with Annette. Tell her the situation and arrange a meeting with her as soon as possible. Yes, Alpha. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. I hope you will warn me next time wolves are planning to kill my son. He scowled. And have faith in 𝐊𝐻𝐻𝐻. He is here to help. Jacob moved through the crowd when they stood up and started flowing through the double doors at the back of the hall. Nobody wanted to stick around when 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐻 was annoyed with them. Can you teleport us back to the house? I want to see how Hunter is doing. Sure. Jacob breathed. Are you okay? That man didn't hurt you, did he? No, it just shocked me. He'll be fine. If that happened to him a few weeks ago, he would surely have a meltdown. All right. Anthony nodded. But just because Hunter is weakly minded at the minute doesn't mean that you have to step up and be stable. It's okay if you're not. You're both going through a lot of changes in your life. I know. I guess. Forgive me for interrupting Jacquete, but Annette only spoke with the Omega Wolves an hour ago. She gave them permission to stay in the city, but she didn't know what they had done. She knows where they are staying and gives permission for only Hunter and Jacquete to enter her territory. Why them and not me? Because she believes that your son needs to sort out his own battles. They are her words, not mine. The beta wolf quickly added. Anthony sighed and furrowed his eyebrows. Hunter woke up this morning and said that he wanted to kill them. Jacob spoke quietly. I think it would help if he did it by himself. I can watch close by, and if 𝐻𝐶's in danger, it'll help. Anthony didn't like the idea of that. But his son is not a child and he does need to fight his own battles. Well, wait until 𝐻𝐶's better and then you can make your move. If Hunter doesn't end up killing them, get them arrested. Or kill them yourself. Every time Jacob heard the word kill, it felt like someone was hitting him hard on the head. He still didn't regret what he did to those wolves, but meeting a family member of the deceased took his stability by surprise. I can breathe a little better now. Hunter had just taken a shower and it took him almost 45 minutes. He had to take breaks and washing was incredibly sore. I feel better because I'm clean. Jacob smiled and helped him to pull a hoodie over his head. Hunter winced when his shoulder sent searing pain down his arm. Jacob was already holding the sling and quickly put it on him when his arm successfully made it through the sleeve. It's time to have more painkillers. I don't want the ones I had earlier. I want to actually spend time with you instead of falling asleep on you. They are only what the doctor recommended. If you think you can handle the pain, then take different ones. Jacob hated seeing his discomfort, but it's not his body. I might take them before going to bed so I can sleep. Hunter's right hand clung onto Jacob's shirt, holding him close. Now, I know you've been wanting to talk to me about how awful I feel, but I don't want to right now. I think I want the fact that I don't have a pack anymore to settle in first. It's fine, whenever you're ready. Jacob really didn't want to push him. Not when 𝐻𝐶's hurting physically and mentally. But he hushed his voice because the bedroom door was open. I think you should talk to Sam. What about? Hunter lifted his hand and wrapped his arm around his shoulders, unable to resist his warmth. His scent was driving him crazy. As usual, about what he admitted to you. Hunter raised his eyebrows and studied those silky cocoa-colored eyes, cocking his head to the side. He smiled. You've known for longer than me, haven't you? Jacob nodded. Well, after the lunar cycle ended, I just saw it. The way he gets giddy around William and offers to spend time with him is obvious. And 𝐻𝐶's the only person he will stop and stare at for longer than a few minutes without losing interest. But it's almost like I can see where his attraction is going. Why didn't you say anything? It's not really my place to tell everyone. He told you when he thought he was going to die. That says a lot about how much he wanted to keep it a secret. You're right, but I think I know why. Hunter was getting tired, so he slowly walked over to the bed and sat down. His family are, I think, a bit on the homophobic side. They used to come and visit us all the time, but since I'd even mated with you, they haven't been to just hang out. And they're constantly worrying about Sam and always questioning him about whether 𝐻𝐶's in the right pack or not. Do you think they'll reject him? Hunter nodded. But they have never been a super close family, so I don't know how much it's swaying his decision to keep it a secret. They'll go get him and tell him you want to talk. Jacob turned, but Hunter caught his fingers. Kiss me and then it'll let you go. Hunter realized that his weakness is watching the blush rise on Jacob's cheeks. He loves it when it makes him flustered and awkward. He finds it cute when he gets a little sheepish. Jacob pursed his lips, trying to slow his excited heart. Leaning down, he aimed for Hunter's cheek, but he wanted more. The werewolf turned his head and caught his lips instead. Jacob didn't mind. He wanted it just as much as him. When I'm better, we're gonna have the greatest make-out session. Jacob's pink cheeks deepened with color as he bit his bottom lip. Standing up straight, He gently pulled his fingers out of Hunter's grip. "I'm looking forwards to it." With that said, he simply turned and continued his quest to find Sam. Hunter could only watch with an open mouth. "I hate you for being so irresistible." He yelled after him and started pleading for his body to heal. When Jacob reached the ground floor, he could hear the unmistakable babbling from Sam. He found it really sweet that he was falling head over heels for his brother. He stood in the doorway and watched how he barely paused for breath when talking to Scott. However, he was talking about his feelings and nobody else was in the room. It dawned on Jacob that he had just interrupted something personal, and Sam was having a little therapy session with his psychologist of a father. It'll come back later," he mumbled when Sam stopped talking. "No, it's okay, Jacob," he called after him. "You can come in." Jacob reappeared in the doorway with guilty eyes. "I didn't mean to interrupt." "It's okay, son," Scott beamed. Jacob started to fidget, almost forgetting what he was here for. A hunter wants to talk to you, Sam." The beta wolf knew immediately what it would be about as he bounced from his seat and walked over. "Thanks. How's he doing?" "Not bad. 𝐊𝐲𝐬's healing fast." "Good. He'll start to get really moody if 𝐊𝐲𝐬's cooped up inside for longer than a day." Sam chuckled and walked around Jacob, heading for the stairs. He was a little nervous to talk to his alpha about it, even though he knew 𝐊𝐲'd understand. It was nice that Hunter offered him support, even though there are a million other things that he could be doing. What they went through yesterday will most definitely bring their friendship closer. When he reached the bedroom, Hunter was staring into space and subconsciously picking at his sling. Sam cleared his throat. "Alpha, you wanted to talk to me." Hunter sat more comfortably on the bed with a small smile. "Shut the door if you don't want anyone else to hear." Sam did as he said and sat next to him. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner." "You don't need to be sorry. Your private life doesn't really It does though. How are you supposed to trust me if I'm keeping secrets?" "But that's the only one." "I swear." Hunter shook his head. "It's fine. Sam, I trust you." "Okay, good. But also, you haven't told Jacob, have you?" "He knew before me. His weird god mind can just tell these things. Nobody can keep secrets from him anymore." Sam's eyes widened. "He knows about me liking his brother." Hunter nodded. "I think you need to snap out of that. 𝐊𝐲's not your mate. You're just causing yourself heartache for no reason." "I know. I'm annoying myself, but I can't just switch off my feelings. What if I never find my... Then I'm left alone forever when I could have settled down with someone. But I can't settle down with someone and then find my mate. That would be awful. I don't know what to do. I'm so desperate to have what you and Jacob have. It's taking over my life. I want to know what it's like to be bonded to someone and to feel loved like." "Sam, breathe please. You're stressing me out." "Sorry." He sighed, getting a little ahead of himself. "Have you thought about telling your parents yes?" "I think about saying it to them every day, but we both know they'll hate it." "Well, you practically live here anyway. There's always a room for you here if it doesn't go well. I may as well start packing up my room." Sam sighed. "It'll be sad if they don't want anything to do with me. But whatever. If they can kick me out without a second thought, they don't deserve me. I am the best son they'll ever have. Your and only child. Dawn true in my moment." Sam rolled his eyes and was surprised that Hunter didn't lift a hand to smack him. "But do you mean it? That I could stay here?" "Yeah. My parents would never turn their backs on you. And I won't either. Not after what you did yesterday. I'm so thankful for that, Sam. You have no idea. You're like a brother to me. I'd do the same thing again. And I'd like to think that you'd do the same for me, even though I'm not as important." Hunter shook his head with a low chuckle. "I wouldn't be able to live with myself if you were in my situation and I didn't jump in the water after you." Sam's eyes started to water. He felt an immense pride deep inside his heart. It meant the world to him to hear his alpha say something so kind. "Thank you," he whispered and leaned in for a hug. "No, come on. This is too much." Hunter tensed as Sam wrapped himself around him, trying not to hurt his injured body. But before he had the chance to pull away, the door opened, leaving 𝐴nthony standing with a smirk. "Oh, you're having a heart-to-heart moment. How cute. Shut up." Hunter grumbled and pulled away. "Sam, you're in my territory and I'm actually trying so hard not to punch you in the face right now." Sam knew their moment was over and it felt good for them both to open up. It has definitely made their friendship stronger. The beta wolf quickly hurried out of the room and stood next to 𝐴nthony. "Anyway, Hunter, I just thought you should know that we found the Omega Wolves. They're in Annette's city. Only you and Jacob are allowed in. So when you're there, you might want to start thinking about what you're planning to do. I trust that Jacob won't let you do anything stupid." Hunter's heart thumped in his chest. Still, he was angry. Live it even. "Dad, I'm going to kill them." Staring into his parents' eyes, they shared the same twinkle of revenge. 𝐴nthony knew he spoke the truth. And he was glad. Chapter 77. Are you sure you want to kill them? Jacob asked during breakfast. It was now the day after the city meeting. Hunter was determined to find the Omega Wolves. He still hurt and felt exhausted from the lack of sleep. However, so far, nobody was able to convince him to wait another day. "They tried to kill me. What's to say that they won't do it again?" Well, if they're in prison they won't." Hunter stared hard at his mate, trying not to glare. His groggy side was approaching the surface. The medication and pain were not mixing well with his mood. "They threw me off the side of a cliff after throwing a big rock at my head. They expected me to drown because they knew I couldn't swim. I'm not letting them get away with that. And you won't, but will you just stop questioning me?" Hunter snapped and clenched his jaw. "Just because you're a god doesn't mean that you know what's best for me." Jacob chewed the inside of his lip and stared down at his fidgeting hands. "I'm your mate, not just some random guy," he mumbled quietly. Hunter sighed, wanting to kick himself. He hated it when Jacob looked glum, especially when it was his fault. "I'm a terrible person. Sorry. I shouldn't be taking this out on you." He knew Jacob couldn't really handle the tension. He hated confrontation. "Just do what you feel is right." He stood up and started walking out of the kitchen. "Wait, Jacob. I'm sorry." The god didn't reply and continued until he was out of view. Hunter sighed once more before catching his mother's gaze. "When will you learn that he can't handle your moods?" "Don't start, Mom." He groaned, knowing that he messed up. Margot didn't want to add to the tension. "You're not in the right frame of mind today. I think. I don't care what you think. I would be dead right now because those traitors stabbed me in the back." Quite the attitude. She spoke sternly. "I know you're going through a rough time, but not everyone needs to deal with your anger, including your mate. I said I was sorry. That's not good enough. You should never snap at him." Hunter rolled his eyes and 𝐴nthony almost popped a vein. "Show your parents some respect. You need to calm down. You're not ready to be dealing with. And you know what I'm going through. Do you?" Hunter interrupted him and 𝐴nthony had to bite his tongue if he didn't want this to turn into a screaming battle. "You've had the same pack all your life. They're so loyal and would do anything for you, even if it risked their own lives. They have stood by your side no matter what. How do you think you would feel if they suddenly turned on you for no reason? How would you feel if they tried to kill you with no warning? Also, little witch, a huge group of wolves came over here to kill me. How do you think that makes me feel?" "Well, you know what? It makes me feel so low about myself, knowing that I'm hated for simply loving someone. People want me done my V and nothing wrong. So no, never witch, so no. I won't calm down." Hunter got up from his seat and stormed out of the room, leaving his parents to feel like their hearts had deflated. Their son is clearly not in a great place. 𝐻E's struggling really bad. Why did I think 𝐻Ed take this lightly like everything else? 𝐴nthony ran a hand through his hair. He can't let him track down the Omega Wolves. The hunter they know would want to kill. Hunter stormed up the stairs, even though he was in a lot of pain, and straight for his bedroom. Jacob was in the bathroom and brushing his teeth when he climbed into bed, winced, and pulled the duvet over his head. Are you okay? Jacob thought as he stood in the doorway, staring at the lump under the duvet. Yeah, I'm just great. Hunter's sarcastic tone was not missed. I think it's time to talk about what you're going through. What's the point in talking about it when you already know how I feel? Hunter wanted to relax his mind, but he had a lot going on that kept circling his thoughts, making it impossible to switch them off. When Jacob finished cleaning his teeth, he walked over to the bed and climbed under the duvet too. Hunter watched with an unhappy frown. However, his mate was going to sit back and let him crumble. You're handling the situation wrong. He spoke quietly. Hunter crossed his arms, which caused a little tension on his injured ribs. I don't care. You do. I'm not the most stable person in the world, so my opinion is not really valid. But you can't let this affect you so badly. It's what they'll want. Hunter sighed and studied his face. Your opinion does matter to me. I'm sorry for being moody. I just get like this sometimes. It's fine. It's not. You're my mate. I shouldn't drag you down with me. Jacob chewed on his bottom lip and stared at the fading bruises around Hunter's eye. I know I've not known you for long enough to fully judge your character, but you're usually stronger than this. The werewolf reached up and gently rested his hand on Jacob's warm cheek. I'm good at hiding my emotions, but today feels different. Jacob pressed his cheek harder against him, enjoying the touch of his soft skin. You've known the Omega Wolves for a long time. You're not a monster like they are. You can't just simply kill them without feeling something. Hunter then finally felt like the clockworks inside of him were turning. Today, he woke up with a loose screw and was in need of someone to restart him. He pulled the duvet over his head and struggled to sit up, but the spark was back in his eyes. Jacob, actually. He positioned himself and took shallow breaths so he didn't hurt his ribs. Can I call you 𝐿𝐷𝐿 from now on? It just feels strange calling you Jacob when it's not your actual name. Jacob climbed off the bed with a thoughtful expression. I guess. Yes, I think I would like that. Are you sure? He nodded and held out his hand. Hunter gratefully took it, using his support to stand up. 𝐿𝐷𝐿 is my real name. I want to be called that from now on. Hunter smiled, feeling better already. Good for you. I'm happy that you're getting used to it all. After slowly wrapping his hands around his shoulders, he wanted to get the day over and done with. Can you take me to the Omega Wolves? Now yes. Jacob stared into his majestic gray eyes, seeing the determination in his wonderful soul. If you're sure you're ready. Hunter didn't answer. Instead, he leaned forwards and rested his chin against his shoulder, getting ready to teleport. He was ready. It was going to hurt him a lot, but he can't hide everything in his anger. He needed to face his nightmares. Dad, we should have moved further away. Hunter is still alive. He'll surely find us if we're in the next city. Ricky spoke in a hushed tone. They were sitting outside of their new home, which was shared with Harrison, Donna, and their families. Don't think like that. He'll be scared that you'll try again. Your alpha was always all bark and no play. He won't find us. His dad might, but the leader of this city won't let him in. Ricky felt sick. His parents don't know Hunter like they do. He gets very hot-headed and a lot of his decisions are made without him thinking rationally. Even if Anthony comes looking for them instead. 𝐻𝐿𝐷𝐿𝐷𝐿 is very protective over his son. I'm telling you, it's not safe here. You're being paranoid. Harrison sat down next to him. This will all blow over. Okay. Jonas sat silently on the grass. He has barely spoken a word since they made their great escape. In a way, they were forced to do such an awful thing to their own alpha. It felt wrong, but they would be in too much trouble if they backed out. He liked Jacob. His parents didn't. If he had to choose again, he would choose to take Hunter's side. But it's not good enough. Once the trust is broken, there's no way of repairing it. Right, boys? Go inside. We have a city meeting to go to. You three need to keep your heads low for a few weeks until the chaos blows over. Ricky's dad stood up and put his arm around his wife. If they even dare to talk about that god, they'll be outraged. The boys headed into the cabin, looking glum and feeling heavy-hearted. Maybe we could start a pack of our own, Harrison suggested. We can't do that. We're rogue now. And plus, nobody with a higher status will join 𝐊𝐲𝐬𝐑𝐞𝐝. Ricky flopped onto the couch with a forceful sigh. Having brown fur prisoned them to only omega roles. If they were born with black fur, they could take the role of a delta or a beta if they had white fur. An alpha was a sacred role. But unfortunately, the best hope for them was to join a high-ranked pack or have a mate of a higher status. We need to look for alphas who need new members. Yeah, but where Ricky stopped and sat up straight. Did you hear that? He sniffed the air with caution. The other wolves glanced around, hearing nothing but their own breathing and the still silence. No, Harrison sighed. You're being paranoid. Anyway, what are we going to do about 𝐶AC? What do you mean, what are we going to do? 𝐷𝐞𝐝 saved his life. There's no way he'll still have the same views as us. Maybe. Ricky stopped again. You can't tell me you didn't hear that. Standing up, he looked intensely around. Are you sure we are the only ones in here? Suddenly, a solid wooden door flung open and slammed against the wall, leaving a huge bang traveling through their ears. The wolves jumped and scrambled away when two people came into view. When the figure in front hit the daylight, though silver-eyed, cold and confident, announcing his presence, Hunter Raisin had found the 𝐊𝐲𝐬𝐑𝐞𝐝. How dare you stand in the presence of my mate? Hunter growled, not giving Ricky an opportunity to speak. Jacob stood in the doorway, wanting him to manage the situation unless it got out of hand. The 𝐊𝐲𝐬𝐑𝐞𝐝 were pumped with extreme fear. Kneel, Hunter roared, feeling a lot more rage now that they were face to face. The wolves swiftly dropped to the ground, not risking to look 𝐷𝐞𝐝 in the face. Jonah had started to tremble, but whatever happened to him was what he deserved. Hunter marched up to Ricky and yanked on his hair. He yelped when he was forced to stare into his storm full eyes. You killed Alicia because she knew you. How long were you planning to kill me? After you told us about 𝐷𝐞𝐝 in the training court. He breathed. Hunter, please don't kill. Don't even think about saying my name. 𝐊𝐢𝐳. I begged for my life. You showed me no sympathy. The alpha was fighting against turning into his wolf and ripping them to shreds. How could you do such a shameful thing? I didn't want to. Jonah whispered and stared at the ground. Hunter stomped over and cupped his face, hard enough to make him tense with discomfort. You should have left my pack and stuck up for yourself. You're not children. You don't just kill someone because you're forced. There is a limit where everyone has to draw the line. If you didn't want to do it, you wouldn't. We didn't want to kill you. Ricky mumbled. It's not you who we hate. It's your mate. Hunter took a step forwards and punched him in the face, making him fall back against the floorboards in shock. He screamed when blood dribbled down his chin. You broke my jaw. He slurred. You broke my nose. Hunter turned to Harrison with a scowl. And my ribs. Are you here to kill us? Jonah asked and kept his gaze on the ground. He thought about praying, but there was a god in the room who would definitely not help him. I was this morning. Yes, Hunter sighed. But I don't kill for revenge. That would be far too nice. Harrison closed his eyes and wished he could turn back time. Why did he let his family get inside his head? Hunter's pack will be the best thing to ever happen to him. He'll never have an alpha like him, and he messed up. I am going to make you suffer, he grumbled. I will make sure that every wolf in this country knows how disloyal you are. Nobody will ever want you in their pack. You will stay rogue for the rest of your pathetic lives. He stood in front of Ricky and gripped his chin, making him scream again from moving his broken mandible. You will never forget me. I will always be watching your every move, and I will do everything I can to ruin your lives. Pushing Ricky back to the ground, Hunter turned to 𝐷𝐞𝐝. Set the house on fire. Jacob nodded and exposed his electricity, pointing in the room behind him. He allowed it to shoot onto the carpet, instantly setting it alight. The 𝐊𝐲𝐬𝐑𝐞𝐝 all scrambled to their feet and aimed for the front door. However, the presence of their ex-alpha will always haunt them. Are we done? The god asked him put a comforting hand on Hunter's tense shoulder. Hunter turned and looked deep into his eyes. The spreading fire flickered against his beautiful pupils. Jacob watched the dark cloud clear from his compact mind. Not killing them was the right thing to do. He could feel it now. Although, as soon as the Omega wolves left the cabin, the wolf police were standing outside, getting ready to arrest them. Yes, Hunter took a big breath and wrapped his arms around him, slightly hurting his injured shoulder. But he now felt somewhat at peace with his day. "Take me home." Leading close, he watched his lips. "We have an overdue make-out session waiting for us in the bedroom." Chapter 78. When the boys landed in the bedroom, they were too close to the bed and toppled onto the duvet. Hunter flinched from the pain and released a small whimper. "Sorry, I didn't." Jacob's apology was silenced when Hunter pushed through the pain and connected their lips. "Don't hurt yourself," Jacob mumbled against him, but Hunter climbed on top of his mate, pinning him to the bed. Jacob kissed back and started to relax into it when Hunter's hands embedded into his hair. There was something about the gentle tug that never failed to send a shiver of affection through him. Feeling Hunter's warm body on top of his managed to ignite a spark of feelings in his heart. At first, admitting to himself that he wanted to kiss someone was hard. He was too innocent and cowed and handle thinking about taking a relationship further. It felt like he was corrupting his mind. Although, in time, he came to realize that all couples think about this. It's natural and requires trust, which Hunter has gladly given to him. So when Hunter's perfect lips kissed him with a deeper passion, he followed without a care in the world. His hands even made their way onto his back, slowly gripping his t-shirt. Hunter's head was pounding, but he needed this from his mate. Affection was the best thing he could indulge himself into when he demanded time to let go of his troubles. Struggling to hold his injured body up, he gently put all his weight on top of his mate. Jacob didn't mind. His body was big enough to handle it. He knew Hunter was hurting, so the only thing he could do was to raise for passion. The heat within their souls grew to accommodate the stretched intimacy. The bond was overpowering, forcing them to feel closely combined by the lunar love. Hunter pulled his left arm out of his sling and ran his hand down Jacob's side, reaching his hip. It hurt tremendously, but nothing was going to stop him from pleasuring his mate. When his warm fingers snaked their way under Jacob's t-shirt, he didn't stop or pull away. He was sinking into the moment, and everything around him had faded away. All he could think about was the remarkable wave of desire pumping through his veins. Hunter gently traced the outline of his washboard debris. They felt so firm and so flawless. Every ounce of him was utter perfection. He had to mark him. He had to claim his body and protect his territory. Their lips moved furiously together, kissing deep and expressing lustful meaning with each kiss. When the werewolf moved his body against Jacob's, he was forced to take in a sharp breath of air. The pain was a little too much. Are you okay?" Jacob breathed against his mouth. His eyes were closed. His nails had sunk and gently into Hunter's skin, and he was swarmed with such a comfortable atmosphere. Not a single worry invaded his head. "I'm hurting." Hunter pulled his head back. A frown of discomfort had overpowered his affection. He wanted to continue, but he couldn't. Jacob opened his eyes to see that his mate's pupils had replaced his gray color. He knew he wanted to continue, so for once in his life, he had to be brave when it came to this area of his relationship. He had to show Hunter that he wanted to take it seriously, with a tender heart. He slowly turned Hunter over so his back was pressed against the duvet. He hovered over him and didn't touch a single fragment of his body, moving his head in close. Their lips were connected once more. Hunter wanted to hug him so tightly to say that he was proud, but he had to relax his muscles. So he lay there and allowed Jacob to take control. His kissing was faultless because clearly, he has had a good teacher. The dominance in him was screaming. Yet there was something oddly turning him on from seeing Jacob's timid personality transform into confidence. When he breathed in another sharp breath, Jacob's confidence surprised him further when his tongue discreetly slipped into his mouth. Yet, Jacob's own confidence overwhelmed him, and he pulled back. Hunter opened his eyes to see him staring with wonder. Jacob blinked away his surprise and sat up. His legs were on either side of his mate, and his fingers subconsciously rested just under his exposed belly button. I can't believe I just did that. Well, you better believe it because I want you to do it again. But Jacob reached for his sling and started feeding Hunter's hand back through it. You need to heal first. WHA. Hunter furrowed his eyebrows and pouted. Jacob was seeing this expression for the first time and it made him chuckle. Ready for more. You can barely breathe. If I had enough energy, I would throw such a weak tantrum right now. It's a good thing you don't have energy then. I don't want to see that. Hunter grinned and took his hand, slotting his fingers in between his never felt so perfect. Oh, you'll see it. Trust me, I can be really petty. I know. Hunter stopped and scoffed. Oh, thanks. Jacob. Thanks for saying oh no. You're not petty, Hunter. You're great and mature. You're not a big man, child. Your tantrums are valued and… Shut up. Jacob laughed and rolled over, laying next to him. They both stared at the cream-colored ceiling. It was high, allowing the big window to flood the room with sunlight. Just then, light footsteps approached the bedroom and a small figure appeared in the doorway. The boys looked over to see Margot being very cautious. Are you okay, boys? You're not arguing anymore, are you? No, I feel better now. Sorry for snapping at you. Hunter struggled to sit up. It's all right, son. She beamed. But your father wanted to speak to you about 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐑 wolves. It's fine. We sorted it. You how? Margot watched her son with intense eyes. They were arrested after I made sure they wouldn't try finding me again. You didn't kill them. Hunter shook his head. It was the right thing to do. I probably would have regretted it. Standing up. He wanted to be outside. Anyway, it's over now, so I don't want to think about it. Well done for making the right decision. She beamed. Anyway, Nana is here. Hunter instantly perked up now. He hurried to the door and Jacob loved how excited he was to see his grandmother. Oh, your grandpa is here too. Hunter nodded and continued down the corridor. He hadn't seen his granddad in a little while and was eager to say hello. When he reached the ground floor, he almost tripped over Flora's yellow Wellington boots, sitting by the door to the kitchen. Oh, there he is. My handsome grandson. Flora walked over and cupped his chin. She examined his bruised face with wise eyes. I'm so sorry that you've been through this, Hunter. You don't deserve any of it. But I'm a strong believer that everything happens for a reason. Your dirty 𝐊𝐸𝐽 wolves would have betrayed you further on down the line. It's better to get rid of them sooner rather than later. He nodded and gave her a hug. I guess you're right. He kissed her cheek before she moved on to Jacob, who entered with her daughter. Well, look at you. She grinned and took hold of the god's hands. You're growing with faith every day. Hunter, my boy. Alfred. His grandfather beamed and welcomed him with open arms. Sorry I didn't visit when you found your mate. I had a few jobs to do. It's all right. Hunter winced when he hugged a bit too hard. But Flora told me all about him and the lunar cycle. Alfred pulled away and watched the god. Wow, the atmosphere around him is so prestigious. Isn't it just? Flora stood back with a twinkle of pride in her eyes. Oh, this reminds me. Turning, Thought handed her a big journal. It looked to be hundreds of years old and Scott handled it like a newborn baby. I was reading through the 𝐻𝐻𝐬𝐬. Do you boys remember what that is? Was it like the Book of Gods or something? Hunter asked and walked over. Anthony was watching him closely, not yet knowing that he had sorted out the 𝐊𝐸𝐽 wolves with a more matured approach. Yes, it was written by the old generation of gods. Jacob's chocolate eyes examined the cover. It looked familiar to him. Here, love. I thought you might want to read through it. Flora placed it in his hands, but as soon as the cool leather touched his palm, all the knowledge was shared directly with him. He gasped and widened his eyes. Wow, he breathed, staring at Flora. I know why you're here. You read something in the book that shocked you. She nodded and smiled with satisfaction. I did indeed. You see, my mind had constantly been thinking about your aging process. I thought it was a little unfair that you both get to live this incredibly long lifeline, but you'll lose all your family in a blink of an eye. In 100 years from now, well, I'll be gone. Jacob connected his gaze with his mate, not liking the sound of that. However, he knew exactly what Flora was going to say. After reading through the Enchiridion, I found a page dedicated to the god's family, and apparently, whoever is related to the god and their mate will now share the same lifeline. No way. William breathed. For real. Yes, it happened to us when the lunar cycle finished. Hunter's eyes examined the room and landed on Sam. He looked incredibly excited for everyone. Yet in 100 years, he won't be on this earth anymore. But Flora added, knowing who he was watching. It has an exception for those who are bonded through mind links. For example, a pack. Wait. Sam stood up. I have a mind link with Jacob. Yes, you do. Flora turned. Welcome to the group. Then she turned to Anthony. Your pack will have extended lifelines too. Are you sure this is correct? It seems far too generous. Anthony didn't want to get his hopes up. It's true. Jacob kept staring at the book. It says it in here. Wait, so I'm gonna lie for as long as Jacob and Hunter? Sam questioned. His eyes were as wide as saucepans. He could barely believe it, yes. But I think that is why Jacob connected a mind link with only you. The rest of his pack didn't belong. Sam bounced over to Jacob and flung his arms around him. Thank you. You're so great. Oh my 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐷𝐞𝐝. You're amazing. I can't believe. Sam stopped when Hunter's glare pierced right into his soul. He quickly unpeeled himself from his mate and cleared his throat. Sorry, Alpha. You earned this, Sam. Margot beamed. Your bravery and loyalty deserve to serve Hunter for a very, very long time. Thank you. Sam was filled with hope. I gotta rush home and tell my family something. He'll be back later. He knew his parents were not included in this amazing deal, but now that they won't be in his lifeline for long, why not tell them the secret he has been keeping from them? When he was gone, Flora returned her attention back to Jacob. If you've been finding yourself questioning anything, all the information is in there. She tapped his head. Or in there. She tapped the book, allowing her ruby-red nails to scrape the surface. Remember, unanswered questions will always find a way of completing themselves. Chapter 79. The wind was gracefully gliding through his beautiful silky black fur. His tongue hung out of his open mouth, enjoying the air and panting from his strenuous exercise. He was almost home in the excitement of telling his parents that 𝐊𝐲𝐬𝐵 was also panicking his heart. However, he didn't care what they think. They have never really meshed well as a family. He never felt like he was good enough and constantly had to fight to prove himself. When he joined Hunter's pack, that was the only time they told him they were proud. He has not heard it again, and he doesn't remember the last time they said they loved him. He knows they do. It's just not as much as what he would like. When he reached his house, he rubbed his paws on the doormat before changing and walking in. He was out of breath and craving water. Hey, is anyone home? He yelled and walked over to the fridge. Flashes of Jacob hitting it when he made him chuckle. Sudden footsteps approached the room and he spun on his heels. Son, what the hell is wrong with you? His dad sighed. We have heard all sorts about Hunter's pack. And yesterday at the city meeting, that god had some nerve showing up after what he did. Wait, what? Sam frowned, subconsciously resting his glass on the counter. What do you mean? Jacob was only defending Hunter, who they were trying to kill. He killed over 20 wolves. 𝐊𝐲𝐵 and stop right there. Sam sighed. I was at the house when it happened. If he didn't stop them, they would have hurt me, Jacob's family and Hunter's family. I thought you believed in the gods. I do believe in the gods, but it shouldn't be up to that kid. He clearly doesn't know what 𝐊𝐲𝐵's doing. If he was right for the role, then he wouldn't have it. Sam turned and made himself busy. He was starting to get really nervous about telling them Sam. His mother's voice echoed into the room before she made an appearance. Right? This is it. I know being in Hunter's pack is an amazing opportunity for our family. But I want you to leave. It's too problematic. You're constantly in danger, and that God is clearly not good for us. Sam watched his parents as they watched him. He could now see the difference between himself and them. When he was a kid, he spent every day with Hunter and his family. It has only just emerged in his thoughts that he was practically raised by Anthony and Margot. Not then. That is why he is so civilist, free-spirited, and open-minded. I agree with your mother. You need to be rogue for a while. Then you'll see just how bad Hunter and his mate is. I doubt his parents have coped with it all. I mean, having a son who's that kind of person. Then having his, you mean gay, Sam said. His usual happy tone was nowhere to be seen. Yes, as a parent. I can't imagine. Sam interrupted her again by laughing. Yeah, I'm gonna go pack my room up. Walking through the kitchen, it was starting to feel easier to just gather his things and go. What? Why, his dad frowned. Because I'm moving in with Hunter, his family and Jacob's family. He strolled through the living room and stopped outside his bedroom door. He's terrified. Yet, he didn't care. Yes, I'd just listen to what you said and I don't agree with any of it. 𝐊𝐤𝐳 is a great person. Friend in God. He is perfect for Hunter, and he is the best and only alpha it'll ever have because I'm not leaving the pack. I'd rather leave this family. How could you say that? Gasped his mum. What a heartless. I'm ridiculously attracted to men. So deal with it. He shut the door in his parents' face and breathed out a huge sigh of relief. He knew they were standing on the other side of the wood, gawping at his words. It would only be a matter of minutes before they barged in. A huge argument would erupt through the little home. He grabbed a rucksack and started packing everything he could. Clothes, toiletries, shoes, electronics. He picked the basic belongings that he uses from day to day. He is glad he never owned a huge amount of items. He's a minimalist at heart and prefers wolf interactions. When he picked up the rucksack, he slung it over his shoulder and opened the door, only to find his father standing in front of it. He was standing tall with crossed arms and a fierce expression. You're not going anywhere. His dad's deep voice forced its way through him. Sam was big built and the same height as him, but he didn't want to fight. Don't make it hard. Just let me leave. I won't come back. No, you're not bringing shame on this family. You are leaving that pack and you're staying home with us so they can stop feeding poison into your mind. Sam chuckled and crossed his arms, copying his dad's hefty stance. You know who I like. Jacob's brother. She is so hot. But cute. He is shorter than me and not as muscular, but I like that. God, I hope he's gay because I will kiss the hell out of him. Sam's dad lifted his hands and angrily pushed his son with unnecessary force. Sam fell back into the room and heavily landed on his rucksack. He coughed when the air left his lungs. Don't you dare talk like that again. His dad roared. No son of mine will be this way. His wife stood back and allowed him to handle things. Sam didn't need to people yelling at him. And everything his dad was saying is what would come out of her mouth too. Sam climbed onto his knees and clenched his hands into fists. He didn't want to build the conflict. He couldn't. Jacob, it's not going well. My parents won't let me leave. Can you help me? He thought desperately. Sam's dad looked a little shocked at his own actions. Yet he stood his ground and refused to move. This is for your own good. You'll thank us one day. As soon as he stopped talking, a person appeared next to his son. If he blinked, he would have missed the transaction. Jacob. Sam breathed and stood up with his rucksack. His hairs were on end and he was trying to keep himself together. But someone was in his territory. Even if it was just a friend, it still made him extremely uncomfortable. Please, take me, Samuel. Don't you dare leave this house. His dad stepped forwards and grabbed his arm, but Jacob exposed his electricity, making him jump back. Being in the presence of the god was a little overwhelming for him. But he saw him yesterday and was prepared to bow down to a teenager. You're a lunatic. Sam breathed. He was on the verge of getting very emotional. You just lost your only son. Jacob allowed his powers to subside so he could hold on to Sam without burning him. When their arms were securely around each other, they vanished. It took Jacob a matter of seconds before landing at the top of a field. They stumbled onto the grass and fell to their knees. The god looked up to see the Raisin household in the distance. "Why did you land here?" Sam sniffed and wiped his wet eyes. "I didn't think you'd want everyone to see you so upset." Sam took off his rucksack and pulled his legs up to his chest. He covered his face with his hand and tried hard to stop his tears. "I don't know why I'm so upset," he whispered. "I'd expected this." His heart crippled with the ache of being somewhat abandoned. His life changed in less than 20 minutes. 𝐻𝐸 sighed if he felt nothing. Jacob shuffled closer and rested a comforting arm around his shoulders. "Even if you did, it can't be easy." Sam quickly pulled away and stood up. He shook his head and took deep breaths. "I'm not gonna let them get to me. I'm great. They never deserved me." Of course this was just a mask. Looking weak in front of Jacob is not what he wanted. Jacob chuckled and nodded. "You are great. You are great. Sam, you deserve so much better." He stood up too and looked at the house on the horizon. "Would you like to walk back?" "Yeah. Does it look like I've been crying?" "I feel like I'm looking at life a lot differently now," William said to Hunter as they lounged in the garden. The sun had escaped the clouds and was bathing them in its glorious warmth. "Now that you're living for what? Thousands of years?" Hunter shook his head with a chuckle. "That's gonna take a while to get used to. But at least I'll have my family for longer. It would have been weird for you to watch us all get really old while you barely age. What are 100 years for us now? Is it equivalent to a few years? A few months?" Hunter shrugged. "I have no idea. But I bet it's in the book that Nana brought." "I bet Jacob knows. Where did he go, by the way?" Sam needed him. Hunter's eyes narrowed when he saw two figures walking across the field. "I'm not sure what happened." Stott was sitting next to his son with a dazed look in his eye. Life for him now felt different. Everything he has worked for seemed like just a tiny fragment of what he could achieve. However, thoughts of Grace didn't fail to concern him. She'll have an extended life too, just like her parents. Nathan and his family will also need to be informed. "I'll race you." Everyone heard Sam's voice boom across the field. Hunter looked up when they changed into their wolves. Sam grabbed the rucksack with his sharp teeth and started sprinting with Jacob close behind. His wolf was the same size as Sam's. He wasn't feeling timid or godly. He was just feeling normal. Jacob enjoyed running, and he could feel Hunter's jealousy. He wanted to be healed so he could play in his wolf form. "I'll throw sticks for as long as you want when you're not injured anymore." Jacob thought and jumped over the garden hedge, losing the friendly race by a fraction of a second. Hunter watched him trot over. A smile made its way onto his face. His mate's form is simply beautiful. Those gray swirls were mesmerizing and his fur was as white as snow. "Where's your godly form?" Hunter questioned, but Jacob generously licked his face with his tongue. He chuckled and quickly cupped his head. His hands immediately started to stroke his fur. "Do you remember when I first did that to you and you hated it?" "Yes." Jacob rested his chin on Hunter's lap, enjoying being petted. His wolf traits could be very playful and sometimes energetic. William watched him with loving eyes. He always wanted a dog, and now HES living with people who could change into wolves on command. Jacob's front paws jumped up and onto Hunter. However, he underestimated just how heavy he was and broke the wooden chair. His mate fell onto the floor with a heavy thud. Hunter winced but found it rather amusing. Everyone laughed apart from Margot. "Jacob," she sighed. Yet her smile was visible. "I like those chairs." The wolf's tail slowly curled in between his legs, flat against his head. Hunter sat up when Jacob changed into his pup form. He scooped him up in his arms and cuddled him. "This is my favorite form." Sam changed back into his human and stared down at his rucksack. "What have you got that for?" Anthony questioned. Sam sighed and slumped onto the grass. "It's all my belongings." Margot stood up and walked over, her eyes leaking with concern. "Oh, Sam." She knelt next to him and gave him a hug. "Why didn't you say anything?" I don't know. What's going on? Anthony asked, not having the ability to simply understand the situation like his wife. Okay, so. Sam glanced at Hunter, who looked a little sympathetic. 𝐊𝐤𝐬, looking around. He was surprised that nobody really altered their expressions. Maybe they felt a little surprised, but nobody was bothered. So he continued. When I got home, I wanted to tell my parents, but they exploded in my face about Hunter and his mate. They told me that I can't be in the pack anymore, and honestly, it was carnage. Anyway, I was fed up and told them that my dad wouldn't let me leave. So that's why I asked for Jacob's help. They didn't even ask if I was okay. They know I nearly died, but still only cared about their status. You don't need them. Margot spoke quickly, not wanting obvious silence for him to dwell on what had happened. You have us. And in my eyes, you've had us to look after you ever since you were just a boy. Nothing changes now. It's a good thing we have a spare room left. Anthony felt bad for him, but he never really liked his parents. They got along because their kids were such good friends. It'll be great to have you living with us. Are you sure? I mean, I could find somewhere. Don't be silly, Sam. You're basically family. Margot patted his shoulder and stood up, chuckling at Hunter, who was tickling Jacob. She tried picking up his rucksack. Come on. We'll get you settled in. Everyone knew Margot was going to have a long and very therapeutic conversation with him to make sure he was definitely okay. Hunter, Jacob questioned as he happily sat in his arms. There's something in the Enchiridion I need to read. Would you like to read it with me? Hunter nodded with a grin. You don't have to ask if he'll do things with you. He'll follow you around regardless if you asked or not. Jacob kept thinking about what Flora said regarding his unanswered questions. He has a pretty big one about who appeared to him in the form of Alicia, but now that the Book of Gods has shared its information with him, he knew he has the answer. He just has to read it to remember.